to get to serve in your church, or they're going to get to be able to do, whatever it is. You give them a vision for what you're providing, and then the parents come in like I did when they launched the program at our church. Even though I ran the program, my son came to me and said, "Dad, they're doing your program. I want to do college at my church." And I thought, this got to be the biggest college program. And so the parents start looking, and then Northwest comes in and gives us stability and says, "Oh, this is a real deal." Jim was telling the story when we were down in Tacoma the first year, and we were at a preview meeting, and the first 3 students got up as part of the preview meeting, and the first thing they said was, "This is the hardest thing I've ever done." And the first couple of times we're like, "Uh-oh, nobody's going to sign up." And we're watching the parents, and the parents are like, "Really?" And they're like getting sold because it's so hard. And so that's one of the things parents are doing. We don't want them just thinking around setting up chairs. We want them to be challenged. I tell students, part of what you're paying for is stress. You're learning how to manage things. You're learning how to do things. And we've got story after story after story of students that said, "I couldn't leave my way out of the paper bag. Now I'm leaving the whole ministry. And I did it through this." So I'm kind of the host. This is Cherelle from Jacksonville.
Hi, guys.
And she's going to kind of tell you what they did. But this is a discussion. So if we're kind of talking around something, and you're like, "What about this?" or you have something to add that you do, please add it, because it'll get included when we do the training again.
Yes.
Okay? So Cherelle, go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you do, what size your program, and...
Yeah. So my name is Cherelle, and I'm with Elevate Life Church, which is our host church, and so we have what's called Elevate College Northwest University, and so we have a couple of different programs there. When we started, we were just a certificate program, so it was in-house certificate. We were basically teaching people leadership skills, how to do ministry, how to work in the workforce, things like that, but with new kind of refinement leadership. And then we partnered with Northwest a couple of years ago and offered degrees, and it was been just amazing. So we're in a military town, and a lot of people want to finish their degree, or a lot of students are coming out of high school and like, I want to do this ministry thing, but I also want to get a degree. And so it's been helpful because we also, instead of just doing ministry leadership, we have regular associates, psychology, business. So a lot of our degrees are business administration or business management. So that's been super helpful. We have about 17 degree students, and then we have 85 certificate students. So that they're totally separate. They don't do a degree with Northwest, but the combination is really good. So when we come around to start to do the degree and apply, a lot of our degrees come from in-house. Like our certificate people are like, "You know what? If I'm already doing this, why don't I go ahead and earn a degree while doing it?" And so they go into that program. It's just been super helpful. It's a lot of fun. I have with me my student life coordinator, Ashley, and so we have just been taking on a lot of different parts, like we're doing a partnership with student housing, kind of building out what student life looks like, and just having a good time doing it. So Cary and I are going to be back in Jacksonville next week.
Yeah.
We have a preview night, so it's kind of our way of showing our program to parents and to potential students, and they just kind of envision what it's like to do Elevate College Northwest. So what that looks like, we do worship, teaching, they sign up, things like that. So it's been super fun, so hopefully I can kind of help you and answer some questions, but we're doing this and learning with Cary as we go. So we don't have all the answers, but it's definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, I forgot to mention something. Each one of these deals starts with a checklist like this.
Yes.
And what we did, Suzanne in here, the gal from Prescott, she's the one that gave us this idea because she went to somebody else's training and said, "They did this, you guys should do this." And so, did they get a checklist in the packet they got?
Yes.
So there's an overall checklist. If you are a brand new coordinator and you're like, "What do I have to do?" Here's what you do to get set up. Here's what you do to develop your internship program. And then the third thing, sorry, it's right here, is here's what you need to do for promotion and recruiting. So number 1, you can check this off, take the promotion and recruiting training. Here we are.
Yay.
And so the rest of it is what we're going to be talking about. If you're new to this program, you're going to find out we're extremely informal because the program is way more relational. So that's a really nice way of saying we're kind of making this up as we go along, right? So, oops. So a promotional toolbox. The first thing you need to do, and just for clarity, you promote your program, you recruit students, right? You display your program, how are we going to get people to know about our program, and be clear about what we are and aren't doing. And then you have a process as you meet potential students, how you recruit them. So, number one, you want to get, we've got, I don't know if you saw them out there, there's tabletop banners, there's view books. You want to get whatever's going to work for you from Northwest. And I do want to say, Cherelle's program's about 20 students. Kalispell's program's about 45. They're doing things that if you have 3 or 4 students, the idea is good, but it's going to look totally different. There's strengths and weaknesses each way. You can run a big program in a big program, but you can be very personal and relational way more when you have 2 or 3 students. So a lot of these things, if you've got 3 students, don't think we're saying you should run a full-on preview day and have a, you've got to say, what would our version of a preview day look like? How can we take that idea and do it the most effectively for us? You need to set up your spaces. One of your best promotional tools is if you have an office or you have a classroom or something. We were just talking about New Life in KidSat, and one of the things that they're saying is, as our program gets visible, we got students that are freshmen right now that are going to have seen it and going to say, "Oh, there's the New Life, the MPP office," and that's a big promotional tool. I want to do what they're doing. I've seen them do it. Program website, you don't have to. Probably a couple years away. I want to get a web designer and do a web template for MPP sites that you guys can just put your stuff in. And it's not to help you, it's to keep me out of trouble. Okay? But it would give some kind of thing. We were talking with Foursquare Church about doing a microsite for Foursquare so it would just look like Foursquare churches are the only ones in this program, and because it's like AG, the relationships are tight, and they don't like us, so they'd like to keep separate from us. Hey, I'm a Foursquare pastor too, so. Do you want to do social media and have a plan? Do you guys do social media?
We do. So we have an Instagram, we have Facebook. Social media is huge. One of the ways that we promote is through social media, and it's like watching the analytics on it is really cool. Because once they see it, they're like, oh, let me click on it, let me click on it. So sponsoring ads, that kind of stuff has been really good, especially the last couple days.
So we're making some big steps in social media with MPP. My freshman daughter is coming home from college next week, and she's going to teach me how to use Instagram. Maybe. Now, all you judging me, just take it back, okay? And you can do a program video too. A lot of you have media departments, and I want your input on this, but my take on this, the best videos are students sharing their stories.
Absolutely.
A good promotional item is something that displays what your environment is in a way that potential students can see themselves in that environment.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that what a cruise video does?
Yeah.
I can see myself on that cruise.
And you want your videos, when you do them, to be short, because the attention spans of millennials is pretty short. So we made them about 55 seconds long. And it's just kind of we've asked the student, like, what did it do for you? And it's been good. We pushed one last week. We had another one that just released yesterday on social media. And, like, just the response that's coming back, students are now like, oh, this is a real thing. It's not just, some church trying to do school. It's, Northwest is partnering. I can actually get a legit degree. And so student testimonies are huge. They are a big thing. And the big question is, what made you want to do it? Or why are you doing this program? And they'll tell you, and let them just kind of tell their stories. The shorter the video, about 55 seconds, the better. Anything longer is kind of, you get lost in words.
Yeah, our promotion department tells us the same thing. We don't want anything longer than a minute.
Our creative department is very specific. They're not over 55 seconds. You're the boss.
So you get your toolbox, and then you got to pull out the calendar.
Yes.
We love it if your calendar starts in September. Probably most of our programs start in January. I was a senior pastor. I know how fall is. You have trunk or treat after everybody gets in. Then Thanksgiving's coming. Then Christmas. Then New Year's, and about halfway through January, you start meeting your family again, right?
Yes.
So we understand. I think and I'd love input on this. I think that this conference is going to change a little bit next year and probably be happening in late January, because that's the best time to get launched for the next year. So we're about 75% there. There's some other ideas we have at the conference we're going to share. So I'm going to kind of run through these, but then I want you to comment, because I know there's a couple of things that you do real well. So pulpit announcements, of course. Everybody who's in a church thinks that pulpit announcement is going to guarantee success for the program. It's not true, but it's good. And if you can do an interview and not a talking head, get a student or show your video, and youth group announcements. Anything on those two things?
Yeah, so we, what we've learned is kind of that filter between our student ministry, our high school junior seniors, and then trying to get them into the program. And so we have what's called e-students, which is our high school, middle school. And so we make announcements there, and we have a table and a booth set up. So when they come out from doing their youth group, they can see us, they know we're real. And then they have an opportunity to talk to our team. And so it's good because they make those connections with someone close to their age. They're like, oh, you're doing it. Or, oh, you're, it's not me.
Right.
It's someone who's 19 or 20 years old saying, hey, you should try this out. And so definitely.
Who oftentimes they just saw lead worship or
Absolutely.
Something like that.
Yeah, they
That's
saw that person on
program.
stage and they're like, you're going to do it. And so it kind of creates that buzz for them.
So interest meetings, we're going to talk about a funnel, because part of this is like sales. It is. You got to have follow-up. You got to know what you're going to do with somebody. So say you do some announcements and you meet some students and you want a next step. One next step is to have coffee, but the next step that a lot of people do is you just do an interest meeting. A lot of times on a Sunday night, because they're in church, hey, remember tonight, and it's just kind of giving an overview of the program. We are currently working on a video that you'll be able to show that will have different staff people, including our provost and our dean, talking about the program. The whole point being for you to have something that parents can look at and say, oh, this is a real deal. I've got a really funny story about the thing we're working on with college too, okay? So, this is part of it. We might have to incorporate it in there. So, in Dallas, a lot of the programs, even though it's against the law, we found out, use the word college in their program. So and Elevate had to go through a special process to be able to use it. You can't do it in Washington. But you really, so anyhow, so anybody ever see the movie Spinal Tap? Yeah. So it's this mockumentary about this heavy metal band, and the guitarist makes an amp and he sticks a knob on it that goes up to 11. Well, it's the same knob. It doesn't change the volume. But the interviewer's going, well, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter. He goes, well, if I'm at 10, if you're at 10, what are you going to do? Nothing. What am I going to do? I can go to 11. And the interviewer's like, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter. And that's kind of like the college thing. They're identical programs, and but these other programs are saying, but we can go to 11. Well, it's the same thing. You're just putting a name in there. They're exact same programs, but they're having trouble because students are like, well, they're at college. We're everybody's been as much of the college as they are, so we'll probably have to put something in the promotional video and talk about how to do it. So I got some information. Anyhow, interest meetings is where that would happen, where they'd be able to hear from students, they'd be able to hear, tell us what yours look like.
So ours are, which basically is the next one, we have preview nights, and preview nights are our interest meetings. And so we set them up to where they experience what a Tuesday night would look like. And Tuesday night for us is like when all of our students, certificate and degree, get together. That's their night to be poured into, that's their leadership training. But at preview nights, it's a little different because we still do worship and teaching and all that good stuff, but we also have a Q&A at the end for parents and interested students. And although a student can be interested, it's really the parents that you have to get on board as well. Because a student can want to do this all day, but most of the time the parent is the one that is funding it. And so they'll come and they'll ask questions like, how much does it cost? How do I do this? How do I do that? And then we also do what are called practicum fairs. And so a practicum for us is just an area that they serve in. So I want to serve on worship. I want to serve in the kids ministry. And so we set up different booths to where they can learn more about that area to make sure that that's what they want to do. So they go through our practicum fair, they look at all the different media, worship, production, things like that. And that's what they'll serve in while they're doing their degree. While they're seeking their degree, they'll serve in that area during church. And And it's been really good. Right now we have about, and it all changed. Right now we have about 200 people signed up for this Tuesday coming. And what we've seen statistically is out of 200.
How many?
200.
They have 200. Just wanted to. That's not the expectation.
No. Because this is the thing. When you sign up, a lot of people, statistically, half of those people will show up, and then out of that, half of them will potentially sign up. And so our goal is always like, let's get as many people, the buzz out there, get them all signed up, and then half of them will actually come. And then out of that, we know that probably 50 or so may think about signing up. And so for us, we set low goals. So like for me, for the degree portion, we're about 17. I need to get like 3 more students. I'm at 20 and I feel good. But we'll probably have about 25 or 30 sign up. And then as you go through the course of getting them through the academic success part and all that, you'll have some that drop off. And so the biggest thing is when you're doing a preview day, be okay with the answer no or not interested, because it happens. And this isn't for everyone. Everyone's not made to do the degree portion, and that's something. And you don't want every student as much as you think you do. You really don't. We've learned that the last couple of years. Like we probably shouldn't have accepted that person, and we knew that, but we were definitely like just excited to get them in and change their life, and that is not. They did not want that. So.
And so some of you first-year coordinators a year from now want to say, remember when Cherelle said? And you'll go, oh yeah, you were right. I thought this was going to be different. You really want to make sure you have 2 students that you're confident in, especially when you start. The other reason is, if that student fails, you failed, and it starts reflecting on the program.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
it's a little
and
crazy.
Parents here, well, the other student, they got in your program and they're failing, it must be the program.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a little bit of that might be true your first year, you're just figuring out what to do, right?
Yeah.
So one other thing, I'm writing notes because she's saying stuff that I hadn't thought of before, so I'm not just texting her. I always wait for, I always wait for this conference because something really big always happens at the time of this conference. 3 years ago, we got Jimmy Graham. 2 years ago, I was doing this with Ben, and I got an offer on my house in the middle of a presentation, and I said, Ben, you're on. And I went and accepted the offer on my house and then came back in and finished the presentation. So last year we lost our dog, so that wasn't a good big thing. So this year something's going to happen.
Okay.
I don't know. Hopefully it's not like an earthquake or something. But so just a little comment on that. Smaller programs will do more of an interest day thing.
Yes. We started off with interest days, like at our pastor's house.
Yeah.
10 people show up.
And that's how you do it.
Yeah. And then
you do it more personal.
That.
Right.
So, and then having, I wouldn't necessarily have them called ambassadors, but having someone within your program that can meet one-on-one with people, because sometimes in big groups they don't ask questions, and then that to them is just this isn't for me kind of thing. And so reaching out to them, having coffee, like you said, is super important, because most of the time that's when you're able to kind of figure out where they want to go and whether or not that program that you're developing is right for them.
Yeah. So like preview day at Kalispell, what they do is they do it in the morning. You walk into their church foyer in, I don't know if they call the lobby foyer or whatever, and on their screens, they're circling through, welcome this student from this place, welcome this student from this place. They've got bags for them with shirts, they get to go down and be part of their chapel. And so if you're in a smaller program, you're saying, well, I have a chapel. Well, you wouldn't do that because that's not your program, you're not previewing it. You do something like, let's have dinner at the senior pastor's house. You can make it more personal. Most senior pastors don't want 200 people coming over for dinner, right?
No. Yeah, when we started, the program as it said before we started with Cary, it was in our lead pastor's, his loft. He was holding our leadership at his loft, and then as we grew, we got to different spaces. So when you're thinking about your area and what you're going to do, don't think I got to have a full-on worship band, I got to have this crazy teaching and all these things going on. It starts with coffee, and then it grows from there. And then what's a really good selling point is your current students are usually the ones that recruit the best for you, because you can't meet with everyone, but they can tell their story better than you can, and they can say, this is what the program did for me, this is what I've learned. And that is usually how, like, most of our students, they were invited into the program by someone that they knew. They didn't just like see an announcement from me at the pulpit and then go, my life has changed, I want to do this. They spoke to Ashley and was like, oh, okay, you're doing it. We went to high school together. I trust you. And then they come, and it's phenomenal to kind of watch them from when they start to some of them are actually going to be completing their associates in the spring. When they're the first ones, about 75% of our degree students are the first ones in their family to ever get a degree, and so that's huge for them. Like they're breaking generational curses and things like that, and so we're super proud of them. But they can tell their story to other people, and that helps. And we don't have like an age gap really. So we got people who are, Max is coming in the fall. He's 16 years old. He just finished high school, and we have them as old as 80. How old is Dr. John? 82 years old. He's not going for his degree right now, but he's going to be, he's in the program. And so don't limit your scope. If you feel like your area has like a larger age demographic, go for it. But if you're going for 18 to 25, that's awesome. Just focus on what you want to focus on. For us, we were like, all ages, let's do it. And it's been good. It's been really good.
Yeah. So Larry, I'm thinking of what you guys do. And the reason I'm most disappointed South Carolina didn't come is they're doing what you guys did. You've got, they're with the I don't know if you call it a district, but they're trying to get their pastors who have been pastors for a long time, get them degrees. The South Carolina group, it's this informal network of pastors, and the guy who started the program is kind of the godfather of them. And so their preview night is sitting down like they always do and talk about the program, right? So you really have to be who you are. Last thing up here, I just made up, but I think it's a good idea. First deadline, the deadline for registration or for application is what, July 1st? And then the 15th, we will let you in if you got all your stuff.
Yeah, that's what
So if I was running a program, I would set, this is kind of a sales thing, I would set the week of June 15th to have all my personal appointments. Anybody who's a possible lead, get all the people that are meeting with them, and that week's appointment week.
Yep.
You know, just to nail them all down and give yourself a deadline. So any comments or questions or things to add on this? Yeah, go ahead.
How many preview days do you do a year?
4 a year.
When?
Twice during each semester. So we're about 20-week semesters for our certificate and degree. So we have one in May. So May 21st is Tuesday is our first one. Then we have one during the summer, which is July 9th, I think. And then we do one in October and then one in December. So it's usually around the same time every year. We see the biggest increase, the most people we see is usually this first one. The first one out of the two sets is usually your biggest one. And then you have a smaller group, and that's okay. Because by July 9th, we're switching our focus from degree to certificate because 6 days to get everything in, not ideal. No, it doesn't go well for me.
Okay,
So.
Kalispell does too. They do one in October, one in March.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say most people like to do it when their students are there.
Yes.
Not the
Right.
grades, because
Yes.
it really helps for other students to talk with their current
Yeah, July is the first time this is the first semester. Our internship used to be a year long, so we didn't have a break, and they used to be here all the time. So this is actually the first summer we're going to have a break. They're not here on Tuesday night, and it's a little stressful because I'm like, what if no one comes? But knowing our students and how involved they are, they will show up. Not all of them, but that's okay. And yeah, so really want to have it, like Becca said, when you have students. When you have the most students in your program, that's the best time to have those interest meetings and things like that.
So I'm not going to spend time on this. The PowerPoint's going to be available. But the idea is, you know, I think September's the best time to do this because you just went through an enrollment process. You just are fresh in your mind. How did it go? What do we need to do better? Let's figure out the calendar for the next year.
You said the PowerPoint will be available.
Yes. Yes, it'll be, this is from our provost office. This is his way of saying, our preferred way is that you would start doing this in September, but we know most of you aren't going to start till January. So, and it just gives you a little bit, it's going to be on Eagle right now, but we're looking at developing an app that's a little more user-friendly that you can get into this stuff on. So, by we, I mean Kyle. So recruitment tools. What are the things you need in your toolbox to actually recruit a student? Number one, more than anything else, is vision. Chris, there you are, Chris. I want you to tell us what you guys did on this one too. I know you're supposed to do it later, but Chris is from Canyon Creek, and they used to have 20 to 25 students, and they did everything live, and they now decided not to. And it's really weird. Chris and I were talking about it 6 months before I got this job. Him, and I and two other guys got together at a restaurant and said, there should be a program like this. Why is nobody running this? And 6 months later, we're all involved in it. So I'm catching them off guard, but that's all right. He's used to it. So what was your decision process in what you've done?
Well, we just wanted to know what the vision of the program was. What kind of student did we want to produce when it was all said and done? And originally, and it went through so many different changes as far as the vision. Originally, it was our church's main goal is to plant 100 churches in our lifetime. So to do so, we need a pipeline to pull from. And then somehow it got muddled to, oh, now we can sort of be like our own college, university. I mean, we have Northwest, but we want to become this school. And so we want to have all these night classes and have all these people in our church that have their masters and they're teaching all these classes and everything. And so then we become our own like entity of the school. And so it just kept on morphing and changing. And I finally just came back to this position. I left for a couple years and the program just like went through the mud pretty much. And I was like, let's get back to the basic of what is the vision that we want out of this. And so we got into a room and we're like, is this where we want to produce pastors? Are we producing that? Are we producing students? Like what is the overall end goal? And that's what you got to ask yourself. Like, what is it that you want to produce? So what we said is we want to produce high capacity leaders, and not just in the church, but that can go out into the workplace. But we want to not just have it be a 2-year program, which is what it was. We want to have the year 3-4 option for people that want to go into full-time ministry. So because we were producing high caliber leaders. I mean, we have someone who's doing a nonprofit for a multi-billion-dollar company that graduated from our program, went to Wazoo, killed it. We had another person that went through our program that would have never graduated college ever. They were the first person in their whole entire family to do it, and we got to work out the kinks and built them into being this leader, and now they're working in sports medicine for college. And so we were developing like really high capacity leaders, but we also want to raise up pastors, right? And so that's what we sort of envisioned. That's how we went through that whole entire process. But you need to figure out for you first. I mean, that's what she was saying is, you know, what kind of student that you want to develop. Otherwise, it's sort of like that scene in Grown Ups where you're just shooting an arrow up in the air and you're hoping no one gets hit, right? Like, you're not really aiming at anything. You're just aiming for something and trying to have this program just for the sake of having a program.
Right.
You really need to have a vision behind it, so that way the student sees that, they catch it, they run with it.
Right. Yeah, another way to look at it is you need to reverse engineer it. What kind of student are we looking for? What would look attractive to them? That kind of student. And it has to do with your context too. Kalispell, which is like Yakima, in that it's a little isolated and it doesn't have as many educational, which is also like Olympia. Kalispell wants to be a full leadership training center. Half their students are adult learners. There's one community college for 120,000 people in that isolated area. It doesn't work for them. There's so many educational opportunities within 10 minutes. Why would you compete with that, right? So, and like you said, you're gonna, this is just how God leads you. You're gonna know what your vision is the first year, and then 2 years later, you're gonna say, what were we thinking? That was the dumbest thing ever. Well, you're just figuring it out, right?
Yeah.
But, so the first thing, you're not used car salesmen. You are helping people fulfill what God's called them to do and giving them opportunities that they otherwise would not have. That was Pablo's church in Westminster. When I went down to visit him, he started talking about redemption stories. And I'm like, dude, you're getting us a little spiritual, aren't you? I mean, come on. Academics, that's how they experience it, right? That's what your video was. There's no way I can do school. Both I can't do it. I have a job. I have a family. I'd love to do it. What? I can do it. And that was not what Pablo set out doing, but that's what was there. So their visions changed. Does that make sense? Be clear on who you are. So a recruitment funnel, communication, we're just going to go through them one at a time. A recruitment funnel, hey. There's the vision part. How do you tell your story? You tell your story with student stories. You tell your story with students, this is what we're shooting for, look what happened. This is pure sales, but that's what you're doing. You have somebody that sees an announcement, right, or they meet somebody who's in the program, and they make an inquiry. Well, and the next part's a communication plan. This is developing an understanding of different levels of interest. The communication plan is, what's your next step for an inquiry? What's your next step for interest? So an inquiry is, I just sent you a card. Interest is, you responded back and they're interested.
Yes.
They want to meet, they want to go to a meeting. Applicant means, and for those of you new, have them apply as soon as possible. Get an application in, because it starts the process, it costs them nothing, but once you hit summer, you can't get transcripts, you have all sorts of trouble, okay? So, applicant, and then they get admitted, and then they get registered. That leads them up to their first day of class. So what does a communication plan look like that? What's your goal with each step? Well, if someone's inquiry, I would have an interest card that allows them to inquire, right? And what do you do in response to an inquiry? You invite them to an interest meeting. You invite them to coffee. You just need to have this lined out. And simpler is better.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have all these contacts out there like, what should we be doing with it? Oh, we should have called those people.
Yeah.
How long are you going to take? If someone's an inquiry down here, how often are you going to follow up with them? You want to watch the balance between bugging them and forgetting them, right?
Yeah, we have 4 touch points in communication. After 4 touch points, we won't reach out again, because at that point, you haven't responded in the different ways. So we'll text you, we'll call you, we'll Facebook you, because sometimes people for some reason respond to Facebook more than anything. It's really weird. And then we will email you. And so if at that point, if we haven't gotten a hold of you within those 4 touch points, and that's done within a week. So we kind of spread it out, but if we don't hear from you, then we just kind of remove your name, because what we don't want to do is chase you down. I don't want to force you to do something you're not clearly that interested in. And interest cards are huge. One of the ways that we found is just to even get it in their mind is we put our interest cards in the seats. And although we don't get a ton back, it's more of something that they see. And then they go out in the hallway and they see some of our students in their shirts, and they go, oh, I saw that in my seat. And now it starts conversation. Now they're asking, what's your program like? What do I do here? And they sign that card up, and we have a full workflow. For once we get a card, they're assigned what we call ambassadors, so someone who's a point of contact. And that is the person. That's their person from the time they sign up to the preview day or preview night. They're talking with them, they're having coffee with them, finding out their favorite candy. So when they get there, it's not, they don't walk into a room with people they don't know. They see someone and go, oh, I know that girl. Her name's Jenna. Oh, she's been calling. Oh, yeah, I had coffee with that person. So they feel a little bit more at home and less defensive when it comes to like, you're trying to sell me something. Because what we've learned is we don't try to sell them anything. We just get you to a preview day. We let God do the rest. If you join, awesome. And if you don't, that's okay too. Because we're not saying you have to join or leave the church. We're saying here's something that you can do as the next step to become a leader or to advance your leadership skills. But you don't have to. You can do whatever you want, really.
Yeah, and there's one thing that's very important for academics at this time. You do not want to chase them. If you are having to grab them and, oh, don't you want to do it, and talk them into it, when a paper's hard, when the internship's hard, you're going to have to keep dragging them through. They have to show the initiative and interest, or you're setting yourself up for failure at every step. So you open the door, but you let them walk through.
Yes. Yeah.
I was taking my notes, 4 touch points, I got that.
Yeah.
So interest means I not only did a card, I've taken a step.
Yes.
I went to an interest meeting, I met with somebody, even I called you back and said I'm interested.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do with them? How often? Do you do something different with them?
After we get their
After
interest.
you get them.
So once they say yes, I'm interested, we have what are called ambassadors, so someone who represents our program, usually a student, and they meet with them and kind of get more information to make sure they understand the program, like what they're signing up for. Basically, we don't want them to go in blind and just go, I'm all in, but have no idea what they're all in for. And so they meet up with them, and then we start the application process. Then we start talking about applying for our internship program and also applying for Northwest if they're getting a degree. And a lot of that happens for us at preview night. A lot of our stuff is handled in one night. And then after that, we have a whole workflow about what happens after applications. How quickly do we follow up? Sometimes people sign up Tuesday night, and I can get approval letters sent out by Wednesday afternoon because they have to get background checks and all sorts of things. So you have to have I keep saying workflow, but definitely a workflow is what's best. And you want to have a team that helps you. You definitely don't want to be the only person running through applications, running through background checks. Now I've got to hunt you down for transcripts. Now I've got to, it's a lot. So you want to have team members who can, I have someone on our team who all they do is transcripts. That is, his whole life is about to happen on the 21st. And that's what he's been preparing for months, is get them to get their transcripts in. And you don't want to like necessarily, like you said, hunt them down. Because if I have to keep trying to find you, then you're telling me that you're not necessarily interested. And we have a way of having those conversations too. It's okay to tell someone like, maybe this isn't the season for that. Maybe you should do something else. Because if I have to continually try to hunt you down, I'm going to have to do it all. We did it with a couple of our students now who are not doing great or didn't do great in the spring. I'm having a conversation with them about how they're not going to do fall. And not because they can't, they have the GPA to do it, but I realize it's not for them right now. They're too involved in whatever else they're doing. And I don't want to see them fail. It hurts the site, but it hurts them more. They leave with a bad taste in their mouth if you get an F. That hurts. So we want to make sure that we're doing what's best for the student.
So you get the general idea of this. Each step you need some things. I want to move us along so we don't miss the end of it. And just scale it down. If you've got 2 students, you don't need a separate person for each one of
Right.
these. But the function has to happen.
Yeah.
Know that transcripts are something that you're going to have to do.
Yes.
So a recruitment tracking sheet, it's just an Excel sheet just to keep track of them. And this is your inquiries. You make a list, who are they, and then you just copy them down as they show interest. And for most of us, it's just going to be one sheet. For Cherelle's program, it's probably 1 tab per.
Yes. With
Right.
5 tabs, but it's totally worth it.
So does that make sense? A degree narrative sheet. This is something that we do not have, but I'm saying it to commit to it. We've got about half. We do have it, but we're going to do it better. We're going to do it better. So by we mean Cherelle made it and we stole it. All right?
Our students were asking.
And so what it is just a rundown of the degrees and what kind of classes. And so it's more of an academic approach. What I'm working on with Jessica is more of a sales report approach. More of a narrative, what kind of student would be interested in this, what kind of jobs does this set you up for, not only so students can recognize it, but so as you're talking to students, start to get your, most of you don't know about the organizational leadership degree. I bet within 2 or 3 years, most of your students are organizational leadership students. And once you get your brain around that degree, and the fact that you can have a focus in ministry with an organizational leadership degree, you'll start picking out students that makes sense for. And you'll know who should be a ministry degree and who should not be a ministry degree. So we're putting that in your, this is a half step. It's the best thing we can steal from somebody, and now it's getting us going on the next step. Christy, are you in here? She's not. Okay. She's going to do this later too. But basically, this is part of long-term success, and I kind of stuck it in here. This is what we were talking about of opening up the door, but don't drag it through. You need to understand what an academic success probation person requires of you. You have to understand how much time that's going to take. Because you're like, I don't care, we're going to get a student. You may change your tune after the first semester. There's different tools. I know Christy uses some. They're just assessment tools. How's the student going to do on online learning? How does we've got some of those on the website. So I know it's strange coming from me, but we don't want all the students. We want the right students. It's long term way better. One of the things we just had at least 1 or 2 students that this was true for. The partner said, no, it's not going to work. I know that you think you're doing better than high school. We want you to do a semester at community college. They did a semester at community college. Right, Josh? You're involved in a couple of these. Tell us what you do with them.
Can you say that again?
When they're not ready and we send them to community college. Actually, I should be asking Joan because you don't get them until after. Ellen was telling the story. So our admissions counselors, they advise, don't accept this student, have them go to community college. This is another way to open the door and see if they'll walk through. They spent a semester in community college, got B's, which is not what they got in high school. Well, they've demonstrated to us, oh, you can handle this, and now we'll bring them in with open arms. We just don't want to set them up to fail and have to pay for F's, right? So that is a really good option. And remember, this is your program. If you want them to be in your internship and do community college for a semester, that's your choice. We could maybe even end up giving them credit for the internship they do before they're a student. We have a way of doing that. Not promising, but there's a way to do that. Okay? And usually we'll put that in your hands. Is that a benefit to the student or not? Because sometimes you want to have that as a parent to hold out in front of them. Anything else you'd say on this?
No, creating a success packet is super important, especially with those who do kind of have a low GPA. But if they do have a low GPA, sometimes they do very well. We had one person come in, she did not well in school. She had a 1.9. She's actually currently has a 3.85. It was definitely a big difference because she was an adult learner. We actually, I think we were all in an email about like a discrepancy in a grade. I'm like, no, it's going to put her to a B minus. And I'm like, and she had a B plus, so it wasn't like a huge issue. But when you go from not succeeding at something and then she's doing very well, everything counts. And so sometimes they come out really well, but a lot of times you want to definitely be careful with someone who has a low GPA or just that didn't take the initiative. The community college thing is definitely something we're trying now. We're like, you know what, semester in, and it'd be good if we could give them some credit.
And they end up being a better student.
Yes, yeah. Now they know what they're getting themselves into.
So this is what we were talking about. Another way of looking at this communication plan or what your process is. But I wanted to do it for these. What is your application process? Not talking about Northwest, but for your leadership program. Because ultimately, we don't tell them they're accepted until you check off on it. Because we don't want to put you in a position where we've accepted somebody and you're like, you accepted who? You know, that's a bad thing. So as somebody applies, and we're talking about using the internship program, you'll have an internship application too. Hopefully you have some things like the references, because we're not taking references. You're dealing with them one-on-one, we're not, right?
Yes.
So what does that process look like from you? You have them apply, are you going to have interviews? You have to have some written acceptance criteria. You know, why are we taking you or not? What's your notification process? How do you let them know? Who lets them know?
Yeah.
What would you say about that?
Once they're accepted into our program, we send acceptance letters. It seems kind of old school, like you send something in the mail, but you have no idea how much people love getting an acceptance letter in the mail. It's like Christmas. I can't tell you how many students last semester posted it on social media. Like, I got accepted to this program. It's like, wow. It's good for us, but it's really good for them. They feel good and they feel ready. And then after notifying them, the letter is the first step. You want to, if your program doesn't start for a couple of months, make sure that you're engaging them, having some things that they can go to. Because they can be full on excited in May, but we don't start until fall. And so we've got May to August, and it's like, what do we do? And so we've got to come up with like coffee with ambassadors, come hang out with us, serve with this person. That way they feel, included at the beginning, but they feel even more excited to start August 2nd or something like that. And so like May 21st, August 2nd, it's a lot of us hanging out. It's a long time.
And there's a tool on Eagle, first day of class checklist.
Oh, yeah.
Just goes through what do you have to do, where do you have to log in, get your books. You'd be shocked how many students are like, oh yeah, books, I gotta get books.
You definitely want to do it the first week of school. Like that Monday, sit them down and walk through how to get into NU Online, because I can't tell you how many students, like, they will go all the way to Friday of the first week and not done anything. And you go, oh yeah, I'm in this college thing. And it's like, oh my gosh. So, and then renting books is huge. Making sure they buy their books in time. I can't say how many students.
We love Kindle.
Yeah.
We love Kindle.
We do ours. Kindle is very checked. We rent any of our students. We rent their books on check, but Kindle is like that's my best friend.
It's instantaneous.
Yeah, it's my new best friend.
So this is the same thing. It's just got some key checkpoints.
Yeah.
When they apply, they need their transcripts and deadlines. The point of this is you might get a student who's very excited and is a great student. You can lose them in the enrollment process.
Yes.
Okay? You can lose them in the process of getting approved. Their FAFSA is a big thing. Did I get that right? That's before the S?
Yeah, I think so.
I always get it wrong. They'll meet with their advisor. Here's one of the things that we're working out. We got twice as many students now as we did when Josh was hired. Josh was our first full-time advisor. One of the things we learned this year is, and we're going to try to figure out how to do it, having Zoom meetings with your students as they get in, to be able to say, here's what your graduation thing looks like, here's the classes and why, and then having a touch point personally with them. Some of you have done this. We've got all your students together, and Josh is set up on a Zoom, and they just sit down with them one at a time. And it's been way more effective than we anticipated. And for us, it's like, well, that was simple, that we didn't even help them, and the students were like, that changed my life. Now I understand things, I got to see Josh, it's just personal for them. So we're working on our part But and there's an enrollment process video, just so you can know who does what and what the steps are, and that's up there. We need to be winding up what's there. Oh, elevate best practices. I copied that from last year. So
Yeah. The culture of calling for competition. That is true. So our culture in the college is based off the culture of our leader. The vision for our students comes from our lead pastor. He, one of his favorite verses in the Bible is, the harvest is plentiful, but the work of the field. And that's how he looks at the college. It's like we're building up ministry leaders, people going to the workforce. It's not just about ministry, it's about getting them out and making a difference in the world. And so we start off most of our stuff with explaining our culture and who we are as a church to them, because one of the biggest things for them is usually a culture shock. And it's like, oh wait, I can't do this. I can do this. I can't do that. And so we lay out some ground rules and things like that. And we like to make sure that they understand, like, this is not, like, you're not trying to be better than your partner. You're not trying to be better than your classmate. You're trying to work with them and figure out your calling. Something that we've developed for all of our first semester students who are just coming in, they do a paper called Finding My Purpose, or Finding Your Purpose. And they have to write about what they feel like their calling is, and like how they plan on getting that. So I feel called to worship, and this is why I feel called to worship. It's basically like a 750-word paper that they turn into us only. And it helps them kind of realize, what is my calling? Why am I doing this? And so we've made that kind of part of our thing. Preview nights, like we said, 4 times a year, it's from 7 to 9, so it's about 2 hours. But again, every program is different, so an interest meeting is equivalent to a preview night. Whatever works for your site is what you want to do. And then your program voice, who are you? What are you doing with your program, right? Are you just here to get more students and get that type of fee, or are you are you trying to build up new leaders? And then over communicate. Cannot stress this enough. We send out, they're in a group chat called Slack. All of our students are in that. We communicate that way via email and text. So anytime we send out important information, updates, changes at a site, it's all through that. And then most of the time if I see them in the hallway, I'm like, did you get my text? Did you get my text? Did you get my text? And if you're like me, I don't like to give out my personal cell phone number, because then all of a sudden I've got students calling me about stuff I can't personally help them with. I got team
you
for
don't
that.
want to get called.
Yes. So we started using a system called Text Magic, which gives you a local number so they can text, which is an app. So they have a number to get a hold of you, but I have a team that also works on that number. So they're talking to me, but they're talking to my team. And they're like, oh, I have this question about this. And then Ashley can see it and answer it. Or I have this question about this. And Paul can see it and answer it. And they still feel in community with me.
Right. Yeah, I know Kalispell uses Slack too. So if you're interested in that, don't know what it is, talk to Cherelle or talk to
our whole church is on Slack, which is really, all of our areas are. So I was like, oh God, why are we doing this? We used GroupMe before. Now Slack is like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to us. We can share Google Docs and calendars and stuff.
So as a program, we're wrapping up. Any questions or things to add? Anybody still awake?
Yeah, great. Talk to you.
So we have to do this ourselves. Yes.
I love what you said about earlier of targeting juniors and seniors in high school, like
Yes.
at your EUs and nights.
Mhm.
Do you do anything specifically with like camps or summer camps, or is there anything like outside of a youth night that you do to target?
Outside of our church or just outside of that particular?
Either or. I'm just like, I love targeting that junior class if you're getting earlier.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like a senior's too late. So is there anything else you guys do specifically around?
So we have, and we've been working on it, so not as much this semester, we kind of dropped the ball in this area, but we started reaching out to our high schools, local high schools, and they have, the FCA and things like that, different Christian groups inside, and we're able to go in and talk to those students just based on our relationship with them. What is really cool about our youth group is that they do, is it every Wednesday or every day? They do the donuts with the juniors and seniors. So they go up 6:30 in the morning, they have coffee and donuts with the seniors, pray over them and stuff like that. So our youth leaders are already putting that kind of relationship into place, and then we kind of go in with the part that the parents are like, well, we want you to be involved, but we need you to go to college, right? And so Ashley and I and a couple of our leaders, we can go into school, have those conversations. Conferences during the summer are big, so we have what's called an Element Conference. That's a big conference for all of our people. We're there. Our thing is to be visual. Like, they just got to see. They can hear it all day, but a lot of millennials, a lot of young people, they want to see the signs. And we did raffle giveaways. That was huge. We just gave away a backpack with our stuff on it, and they all of a sudden it's like I'm committing my life to this, and I'm like, it's a backpack. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm with it. And they love it. They love giveaways. They love knowing that you care about them. And so yeah, I would say we haven't really branched out outside of our own church. But when it comes to high schools, yes, I'd say if you can get in there once a month with your youth leaders and do something, even just there, that they can be your funnel. You don't necessarily have to do it, but like our relationship with them is like, hey, get a couple of these juniors and seniors to come to our preview night to see if they like it and bring their parents. And they do that for us. Like me going in, they don't have a relationship with me, but they have a relationship with Pastor Jake and Keneal, and they go, oh, okay, like my youth leader who is cool is telling me to do something, and I want to do it too. And they come and they have a blast. They're probably the most excited, if anything, leading the way in worship and stuff like that. So it's super cool. But yeah, I would recommend doing some stuff like that.
Talk to Kalispell,
Yeah.
has a similar geographic relationship to a camp as you guys do, and Suzanne from Prescott too.
Okay.
They're both doing stuff. In fact, last night at dinner, Kalispell said they've got 2 camps they're going to there. Great. Yeah, you're right here. See, I'm not used to seeing you for Kalispell.
I
You know? Yeah, so cool. She's got it.
Yeah.
They've got a plan for how they're doing that. All right, so we went about 5 minutes longer than I wanted.
Sorry.
But this stuff will all get posted and probably emailed to you in a bundle, in a zip file, so you have at least the basic stuff. And Robert took screenshots of everything, so you can get Robert.